brand new American band from Florida, and they're called Crimson Glory.
Say what? You got it! Valhalla!
If nothing else can be said about the 80s, it was a time where music was allowed to evolve in a host of different ways. The year 1988 in particular saw the release of many groundbreaking albums, the realm of mainstream traditional metal, as well as the soon-to-be dominant progressive scene. Certain bands, such as Queensryche and Fate's Warning, were at the forefront of this trend, although by today's standards, what they created at the time would fall more into the realm of power prog. Emerging on the 80s metal scene is quite a phenomenon, and delivering a groundbreaking mixture of glam and power metal with a progressive twist to it, Crimson Glory were a band that obviously never got the recognition they deserved. They formed in '79 under the Pierced Arrow moniker, but changed their name to Beowulf in '82, before finally settling as Crimson Glory in 1983. Their original lineup consisted of Midnight vocals, John Drenning guitars, Ben Jackson guitars, Jeff Lord's bass, and Dana Burnell drums. While Dream Theater was still under the name of Majesty and Fate's Warning was still essentially an Iron Maiden clone, this band was writing some very interesting prog-oriented heavy metal material. Their self-titled debut, released in October of '86, brought them huge acclaim from the fans, to whom they referred to as the Crimson Militia. The album's success was not surprising. The synergic collaboration of heavy yet melodic guitars, brilliant drumming, and amazing vocals brought a truly fantastic effort to the heavy metal soil. But the band did not rest after the release of their debut and immediately began working on a follow-up. And so, 30 years ago, in 1988, Crimson Glory's finest achievement was born. Transcendence is an indispensable metal album on any scale. It really has nothing to envy of its predecessors, like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son and Operation Mindcrime, save for commercial widespread appeal, as this has everything from stellar vocals to spot-on melodic songwriting to a production job that is sparkling clean and yet still retains its metallic dignity. Those that know what this album is about will agree, while those that don't know will just get an idea of their artistic merit and a well-deserved standing beside the aforementioned giants. The heavy metal of the 80s had blossomed into several offshoots by the time this record launched. In the midst of all this came the biggest shift in musical focus and popularity: sleaze metal. Crimson Glory's Transcendence is all of this and much, much more. The production is spotless, feeling very wintry and frigid with a kind of sleekness and gloss to it that's reminiscent of glistening, just formed ice on a vast landscape. The band sampled drummer Dana Burnell performing live drums into a synclavier without any cymbals, and then re-recorded with cymbals later in order to have a complete separation of drums and cymbals. They achieved this to have a complete, true separation of all instruments. And on that album, it worked. After the album's release, Crimson Glory took up several tours alongside artists such as Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, Queensryche, Anthrax, UDO, and Doro. Their final show promoting the record took place at the Metal Hammer Festival in Dortmund, Germany, in front of more than 20,000 screaming fans in the spring of 1990. Crimson Glory shared the stage with Metallica, Ozzy, and Queensryche. In '91, the band released the follow-up Strange and Beautiful, which was a big step forward for Crimson Glory's music. The epic, progressive metal stylistics were confronted with blues and hard rock elements. Although not all fans appreciated this combination, the album was still successful and proved to be a valuable part of Crimson Glory's discography. Unfortunately, after its release, the band broke up, and it wasn't until 1999 when a new album saw the day of light, Astronomica. Recorded with a new singer, Wade Black, and ex-Savatage drummer Steve Wackles, was a return to the epic progressive power metal vibes present on the first two albums, enthusiastically greeted by fans, and it remains the band's last offering to date.
A lot of changes. We changed record labels, we changed band personnel, we changed the image, and we changed our style. And they all kind of went hand in hand, so it took quite a while to develop the new style.
Also, we changed record labels in the meantime from MCA to Atlantic, and also all the legalities involved in that took quite a while also. So it's kind of, and basically, and that's how we started writing the song, but now we're concentrating a lot more on the rhythms, and Ravi Jacodia, who is our new drummer, has a lot of Latin influences and jazz and funk, and so that's had a lot to do with the sound also, the new writing.
But we feel it's still Crimson Glory overall. The first two albums were kind of a stage we went through where we were kind of like trying to appease our own egos, writing more for our own egos, and maybe other musicians than writing what could be the best song. Now we kind of outgrew that. We're not really so much worried about that. We're just interested in doing what feels good, what comes from the heart. And that is the main difference in the style change. That's how I would describe it. There's still a lot of colorful themes on the record, but it's more of a heartfelt thing. How we view the world, how we view ourselves, that type of thing, and less fantasy things.
We felt like we needed to move more out of the heavy metal vein into the rock and roll, instead of being mixed in with so many, there's so many things going on in heavy metal now. And we just want to get, back to basics rock and roll. And it's really free for us now. It's like with the masks and with the music that we're playing, we use the comparison, we're like artists painting with different colors now. Before, we couldn't really sing Love Song with a mask on. I mean, it's kind of stupid.
Burnell would be replaced by Ravi Jacodia in 1991, who brought a decidedly more tribal feel to the band. The material they would write for their next album was more hard rock oriented and based more upon drum grooves as opposed to guitar riffs, on which their first two albums were largely based. Also, Midnight became more involved in the composition of the album. It signaled a bold and definite shift away from metal sound upon which the band had built their reputation. It was at this time the band continued on as a four-piece. The revamped group was signed to Atlantic Records and released their third album entitled Strange and Beautiful. Prior to the start of the tour, vocalist Midnight departed as well as retired from the music business for a decade. Guitarist John Jennings recruited vocalist David Van Landing as a replacement for Midnight on what would be a short-lived tour in the U.S. The biggest show of the tour was at the end of the year in Los Angeles, California, at the Concrete Foundations Forum along with Ozzy Osbourne, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains. In 1994, John Drenning moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and formed the band Crush with Lords, Jacodia, and singer Billy Martinez. In 1995, the band would release one self-titled album under the moniker on Paradigm Records. Crush would break up and reform a year later as Erotic Liquid Culture with former Crimson Glory touring vocalist David Van Landing. As with Crush, the group would record and release one self-titled album for Quadra Records in 1996 before calling it a day. John would eventually return to Florida and reform Crimson Glory in 1999. In late 1996, Drenning and Lords wanted to reform Crimson Glory. They contacted Midnight, but he was not interested, nor was he in the right physical condition to record an album up to the band's standards. So they contacted singer Wade Black from the band Lucien Black and Savatage drummer Steve Wackles. Although he's pictured in the album and credited as the drummer, he did not record or tour with the band. Ben Jackson joined later after his band Parrish broke up. This incarnation of the group would release Astronomica in 1999 after a big delay because the master tapes were stolen and they had to record the album again. Astronomica sold more than 30,000 copies in Europe in their first few weeks of the release. Following the release, there was a few warm-up shows in Florida and toured the Netherlands, Germany, France with Vandenplas, Belgium and Greece with Camelot and Evergrey. Troubles began during the tour, and after returning to the U.S., the band once again went their separate ways. In March of 2005, the band announced a reunion with the original lineup. The songwriting process of their fifth album, entitled Metatron, Lucifer and the Divine Chaos, later changed to Divine Chaos, begun. On April 2006, the band confirmed that Midnight would sing on the new album, re-record the vocals for Astronomica, and tour with them. On May 1st, the band confirmed for the Rock Wave Festival in Greece. A few days later, it was announced that Black Lotus Records closed its doors and all bands were released of their contracts. After the show in Greece in July, there were plans to tour Europe. In September, Drenning, Burnell, Lords, and Jesse Rojas performed as guest musicians with Ben Jackson Group at Camelot concert. On January 22, 2007, Midnight was arrested, charged with DUI with a blood alcohol level of 2.0 or higher. 4 days later, the band parted ways with Midnight, citing it would be difficult to work with him as his current state of mind and his present physical condition would impede plans we have in place for future appearances, releases, and recordings. Wade Black, who recently quit Leatherwolf, joined the band again. They played 2 shows in Florida with Vicious Rumors and in the Bay Area Rockfest. After that, they quietly went on indefinite hiatus. On July 8, 2009, in the hospital with family, friends, and bandmates by his side, former singer Midnight died at 3:30 a.m. Although the press initially stated total kidney and liver failure, the real cause of death was a stomach aneurysm.
Brand new American band from Florida, and they're called Crimson Glory. Now I'll introduce them to you. This is the singer, Midnight. And this chap here is John Jane, the lead guitarist. Hello, chaps.
Hello.
Now, it's customary to ask, really, a little bit about the band, first of all, but I can't help but asking, first of all, what have you got on your face, these masks?
Well, they're custom masks that we had made in Italy for ourselves.
And why do you wear them?
Well, the main reason why we got the mask originally was for the purpose to have an indefinite, immediate identity over every other band in the world. I mean, there's so many other bands that look alike.
Do you wear these masks on stage?
Yes, always. We never are photographed without them.
Really? So in actual fact, no one, if you became world famous, no one would recognise you on the street?
Never.
Certainly wouldn't recognise you, Midnight, because they wouldn't know how your voice sounds, would they?
Yeah, that's true.
In memory of their fallen friend and bandmate Midnight, the band played a tribute show headlining 2009's Prog Power in Atlanta, Georgia. In May of 2010, the band formally announced Todd LaTorre as their new singer. LaTorre made his first public appearance as a full-time member of Crimson Glory at the Pathfinder Metal Fest in Marietta, Georgia on October 30th, 2010. In 2011, the band toured Europe to celebrate the 25th anniversary of their first album. In May of 2012, LaTorre joined 4 members of Queensryche as a singer for 2 shows under the moniker Rising West. LaTorre has since joined Queensryche as a full-time member. The band were said to be working on a new album and had released a raw demo entitled Garden of Shadows. However, in 2013, they announced vocalist Todd LaTorre parted ways with Crimson Glory and revealed that he was joining Queensryche. LaTorre revealed that the band had been suffering a long period of inactivity and explained, quote, "We had wonderful momentum and we were working within an important window of time within which the new record should have been recorded and released to have the most impact given the band's resurgence. Unfortunately, the record never materialized despite my best efforts, and I haven't been contacted to write with Crimson Glory for over 6 months. End quote. Recently, in a post on Facebook, Ben Jackson commented that John Drenning quit during the 2012 writing sessions to focus on raising his son, and after that, Todd LaTorre left to join Queensryche. Bassist Jeff Lords and drummer Dana Burnell decided not to continue with Crimson Glory. The band performed its last show at the festival Rockstad Falun in Falun, Sweden on August 18, 2012.